Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Mark. It is 4:01 p.m., February 24th, 2021. This is Gary Lamel. I am calling to order this emergency meeting of the South Carolina Commission on Disabilities and Special Needs pursuant to the provisions that are provided for in our charter. I'm missing the right words, but within our standards. And would ask that bylaws. Thank you very much. I lost the word. Yes, it's emergency pursuant to our bylaws. Thank you. And would ask that Commissioner Robin Blackwood read the notice of meeting statement.
A meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the February 24th, 2021 Emergency Commission meeting was distributed February 23rd, 2021 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance would be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Thank you. The next item is the adoption of the agenda. Subsequent to the sending out of the agenda, the interim executive director has requested that some additional items be added in with regard to the executive discussion beyond the discussion of the legal matter regarding obtaining outside counsel. There are three areas that she has requested that we take up under executive session. The first being staffing of certain positions that will be or are currently vacant at the executive staff level. Second would be clarification of agency actions that were taken last regular meeting. And thirdly, legal advice regarding next Monday's executive session. Those proposed changes, she was relayed to me. Do I have a second with regard to adding those proposed changes to the executive session? Okay. Any further discussion about amending the agenda with regard to that?
Look, Gary, this is David Thomas. Could I ask one quick question, sir?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, would those additions be additions for executive session?
Yes, they were requested as a part of.
Okay, my question is, and I'm not trying to be difficult here, but are those necessary to go into executive session? The one about legal matters, I guess, because peripherally it has to do with prior executive sessions and clarification on what can and cannot be released from an executive session. My question is, are the other things necessary? I would just like advice from the other members if they. Here's what my understanding is, Mr. Chairman. You can go into executive session for a legal matter, for a contract matter, for a personnel matter. Those have been the standard three that I have always understood, but you don't have to. I mean, they can be discussed, but you don't want anyone to be embarrassed, particularly if questions arise. If you're talking about a person moving into a certain category and shifting over, and that might disrupt. Well, that might be a personnel matter, or it could be something more serious, an accusation of some kind. But my question is, do we need to, with the additions, go into executive session? And I'm open either way. I just need everybody. As you said it, I just wondered why executive session for that. So I'll stop and let everybody comment, or whoever wants to comment.
As relayed to me by the interim executive director, she felt that both of the other items that were discussed fell under the area of personnel matters that should be initially discussed in executive session before any action was taken outside of executive session. And I would defer to the interim executive director to clarify that if she feels like it's necessary.
I believe it's my position that putting on my general counsel hat that those items that I asked be added to the executive session are personnel matters that need to be discussed in the executive session.
Okay, I'm not going to argue. I just wanted to make sure it's just clarified. Okay, thank you.
The only thing I would ask is all of those things necessary for today? Because this was supposed to be a very pointed meeting, and I would like to make those Monday, whichever ones we could make Monday.
Well,
if we're meeting again Monday in person, I'd rather be there in person anyway to do executive session anything. So I would
all of them, I believe, are fairly time sensitive that I think the executive staff needs some guidance on prior to Monday.
I agree.
But that's the reason why I believe the interim executive director brought them to me, because there are issues that are a fairly time sensitive nature. But again, I would defer to the interim executive director.
That is correct. And I'm trying to keep it brief as possible. I understand that we want to try to make this meeting a quick meeting, not a long one.
And
well,
you're a little bit far away.
This is David again. Chairman, this is David again, and I certainly defer to our director in this. If that's what she thinks, then my question is eviscerated, so I'm fine with it.
That's my basis.
Yeah. That's sorry, I'm on the phone. Gonna call back. Sorry.
Anybody want to guess what Eddie just said?
No, very.
It sounded like he was having trouble with the phone.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead now. I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Commissioner, I say we move forward with the adoption of the agenda. This is Commissioner Rawlinson. I make the motion.
Okay. As amended, Commissioner Rawlinson?
No, yes, as amended.
Okay. All in favor of the adoption of the agenda as with the proposed amendments, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that agenda is adopted. First time on the agenda is the clarification of the hiring freeze. I think the issue that is before us, as was brought to our attention, again, by executive staff, was the statement that when we instituted the hiring freeze, that we did not differentiate at all with regard to what level we wanted that hiring freeze to take place on. And so they asked for some clarification in terms of being able to continue to hire DSP and that sort of staff. And so I would open up for any statements or motions with regard to clarification on the hiring freeze.
Okay, well, this is Barry Malfors. I sent a motion, well, what I'd like to put in as a motion to everybody as a consideration. And Susan can help me with this, but it was written by staff to clarify what we had in mind, what I think that we had in mind as a hiring freeze. It covers every single person, as I understand it, that we serve in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And so it lists all the positions that would have anything to do with anybody that we serve, and I believe would be more than adequate for to be a hiring freeze until 3/22 of 2021.
Barry, could we ask Susan to read that motion for us, if you don't mind? Or Gary?
Say again?
Gary, could Susan read that motion on behalf of Commissioner Malfors?
Sure, sure. I mean, if you can do it, I've got it open. Either way.
I'd be glad to help out. Positions critical to regional center operations and the operation of DDSN community residential settings are excluded from the hiring freeze, which continues through the 30-day period, which is Saturday, March 20th, 2021. These excluded positions include the following, and then it lists direct support professionals, also referred to as DSPs or human services assistants, direct support professional supervisors, also referred to as human services specialists, food services and housekeeping personnel responsible for meal preparation and campus hygiene, maintenance personnel, trade specialists responsible for maintaining a physical plant, qualified intellectual disability professionals, QIDPs, responsible for plan development and the direct support professional oversight, staff development personnel responsible for initial and ongoing training of personnel in execution of their duties. Time administrators responsible for inputting direct support professional work time into the system for payroll processing. It's called SKIS. I cannot represent that abbreviation. Licensed medical personnel, examples are nursing, dentists, dental hygienists, physical, occupational, and speech therapists. And that concludes the list.
Okay.
That is an exhaustive list as far as you know, Susan, for anybody that we would affect in any way, correct, that we serve, right?
That's correct. To come up with that listing and that phrasing, we consulted with operations directly, who has the responsibility of working with the regional centers as well as the community homes operated by DDSN. So we believe that that's parallel to language we've used in the past and is comprehensive.
This is Commissioner Miller. What's the purpose for the, what is it, the March 30th date? Is that the date that was read? What date was that?
She read March 20th, which is 30 days from the time that we started the hiring freeze, which was the motion that Stephanie had made. She said a month, which would be 30 days, which would be Saturday. And the only reason, and if y'all notice, I put in my email the 22nd, just because it wouldn't necessarily be a Saturday, but I wouldn't argue about 2 days. So, and also if we decided, that we needed to extend this longer than that, we could at another date. But
Did we put that in those wordings there?
It is.
We don't have.
It is. We have a date down there, the 20th.
Let's say we hit that date. What happens after that?
They hire just like normal.
Yeah, the freeze is over.
Okay.
Freeze is over at that time. Unless we extend it, yes.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a second on the motion?
Well, I hadn't really had a chance to call for it before Commissioner Miller asked his question. So,
Yeah, before you do that, I just want to ask the attorney, her advice on, to us on that.
My advice as far as to the language that we're proposing?
No, the 30th, whatever day that was.
Oh, I think the date was March 20th. My advice is, should the freeze go into March 20th?
Yes, suppose we hit that. In other words, the way it's worded now, you fine with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion made by Mr. Malphus.
thank you, Commissioner Rollinson. Do I have any further discussion of the motion as it stands?
I would like to clarify that initially when this motion was made, we did not think of this, and I thank the staff for bringing it to our attention. We did not intend to stop services. We meant just to stop some reckless spending, that kind of thing, until we made sure everything was going right.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Debate, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of amending pursuant to the motion, the hiring freeze, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Barry Malphus, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Commissioner Miller, aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, then that motion is passed. Next item on the agenda is going into executive session for the 4 matters as previously stated as part of the agenda. Would entertain a motion to enter into executive session at this time.
So moved.
Let me ask something before we do that about the next meeting. If we're meeting on Monday, I think that we might want to clarify in public session that that meeting Monday will be an emergency meeting, and therefore it fits into our bylaws, because right now it was considered a special meeting, which may not necessarily fit into our bylaws. So we just need to clarify that we need a motion to clarify that the Monday meeting will be an emergency meeting and not another kind of meeting.
So we're going to have to come back into public session when we rise for agenda item number 6. And I think it would be appropriate to take up any additional matters at that time after the executive session as opposed to breaking the agenda. So I would just ask that that particular item be withheld to when we arise from executive session after number 6, but prior to adjournment.
That's fine.
Anything with regard to the executive session? I believe we had a motion from Commissioner Rawlinson. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will make a motion.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry if I'm remembering it correctly on that, Commissioner Rawlinson. So we have a motion to enter into executive session. Do we have a second with regard to that?
Second, Blackwood.
Thank you, Commissioner Blackwood. All in favor of entering into executive session, please indicate by saying aye at this time.
Aye.
Aye.
Barry's aye.
Commissioner Miller, aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we'll enter into executive session. I would ask all but the executive director, interim executive director, be excused from the room at this time.
And we'll call
then-
you guys back in if we need you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Thank you, Councilman.
it's my understanding that I'll have to be called now because we have to mute
Yeah,
the Zoom
Calling now.
broadcast.
calling you now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll hang up. Thank you.
No, don't hang up.
Don't
No,
hang up.
Barry,
Oh,
don't.
don't hang up?
Just me.
Barry.
Just
They're hanging.
Okay, all right.
I'm the only one in on Zoom right now. So
Oh, okay, all right, sorry.
just to clarify, just to make sure,
Carly.
I'm about to mute myself, but we need to mute the
Okay.
microphones to the Zoom that's in room 251, correct?
yes, sir.
All right, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you. So this is Gary Lamell. It is 5 o'clock. Let the record reflect that we have risen from executive session, that while in executive session, no decisions were made, no motions were heard, and no votes were taken. At this time, pursuant to that, I would entertain a motion from the commission to hire Gene Matthews as outside counsel under the applicable state mandated rate. Do we have that motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Blackwood.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. And the interim executive director will reach out to Mr. Matthews to finalize that agreement. With regard to other matters discussed in, yes, sir.
I heard all ayes. I just want to make sure for the record.
Yes, Executive Commissioner Miller, I heard nothing but ayes on that. Is that correct? Anybody vote nay? Okay. So that I'm seeing is a unanimous vote for the record. Additionally, pursuant to executive session, we received information regarding the filling on an interim basis of the CFO slot that will be unoccupied shortly, and that Pat Maley will be put in that position on a temporary basis pending further moves to cover that slot. We also received information regarding procedures related to paperwork on prior commission decisions, but took no action on that and are taking no action on that this time. We also received information regarding a request from a member of the Senate, from an investigator of the Senate, Mr. Willis, to attend the executive session for the next meeting. And pursuant to normal, we'll just handle that pursuant to normal commission process as far as commission members asking him to enter in. That we took no votes on that. We're just letting the normal process take place on that. I believe there was a question or a clarification from Commissioner Malfris regarding the notice that was given on that particular meeting, because we just missed the 5-day notice that would normally be required under the bylaws. However, I do think that we gave public notice of the meeting when we voted on it. We stated the time, the date, and the purpose of that meeting. So I personally think we've actually met that notice, even if we didn't send it out, because we did it in public forum. However, out of an abundance of caution, I believe there was some interest also into the bylaws of declaring that as an emergency meeting, so that it can be held with less than 5 days' notice if 2/3 of the members agree. So is that correct, Commissioner Malphurs, that you were making a motion to treat that as an emergency meeting for that purpose?
That's right. I was asking to change that to an emergency meeting and ask that 3/4 of us would agree to that right now.
Is it 3/4? It may be 3/4. Yes, thank you. Sorry, 3/4. I think I said 2/3. So,
Sorry, 2/3. Sorry.
is it 2/3? I don't.
No, it's 3. It's 5 out of 7. It's 5 out of 7 of us have to agree to it. So it's 5 out of 6 of us have to agree to it.
No, I think it's no.
We only have 5.
So yeah, so if you only have 6, it would be based on that.
That's right, on those 5.
Yeah.
5 members having to say yes, but I don't think they will say no. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So with regard to that, all in favor of having that meeting as an emergency meeting just for purposes of notice, although I think we've already met it. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, then that meets our requirements as far as declaring that one. Any other matters to come before the commission this evening? Okay. Hearing none, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Barry.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Mark, if you'll please end the transmission.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.